Pleasure to welcome to the podcast Ryan Spark, coming out of Australia, going to be playing for Team Australia in the World Games coming up. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Coach, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, this is going to be awesome. I think you're the first Australian-based goalie that we've had on the show. So congratulations, and it's just a testament.
Thank you.
Yeah, right. A testament to how much the sport is growing. But I would love to hear the story, if you remember it, of the first time you jumped into goal.
Yeah, so I have to be honest, I really didn't have a clue what lacrosse was at the time. I was always a cricket and football or Australian rules football player. And my friend at high school had played the game and was playing at East Fremantle Lacrosse Club, and he asked me to. I think I was just sleeping over his house one day, and then we went down to the ground, and they needed extra players, of course, because it's always tight for players. And I played out in the field for a little bit. I had no clue what I was doing, sort of hitting the ball around sometimes like a hockey player. And then they asked me to go in goals, and I said, sure, why not? And I only let in 2 goals for the half, and they were like, well, you're staying there, mate. That's you done.
I find that to be the case a lot of times, like hearing that story of where a goalie will have some success right out of the gate, and then they're like, that's it, you're the goalie. Like, we can't put anybody else in there. You're making all the saves. So do you think, like, your background in cricket or Australian rules footy like gave you a little bit of success, or was it just pure luck that first time out of the gate?
No, I think so. In cricket, I would always try different positions, but in cricket, there's a wicket keeper. So the guy kind of like a catcher in baseball who would stand behind the stumps and sort of catch the ball that the bowler, if the batsman misses it, the bowler would bowl it and the keeper would grab it. So I always had that sort of hand-eye coordination. And then with AFL or Australian rules football, it's always catching the ball with your hands like that and handballing onto someone else or kicking it. So there was a lot of hand-eye coordination in my sports growing up. So I think that definitely helped.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, especially that, that I forget what you call it, the wicket keeper. What a great name what a great name for a position, right? Right. It's kind of like a catcher in baseball, but you don't really, it could bounce. It could, it can go every which way. So, you're just in a pure sort of reactionary mode, right?
That's right. So you can, as a wicketkeeper, you can either stand up to the stumps for people who bowl slow spin, and you'll have to react to the spin of the ball, or if the batsman edges the ball, you can try and move your gloves and catch it. And then with fast bowlers who bowl, well past 140 kilometers or 99 miles per hour, somewhere around there, they would have to stand back, but then also dive and catch. So, yeah, a lot of those skills transferred, I think.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. So how then, did you go about learning how to be a goalie once you sort of realized, all right, this is for me?
We have a goalie coach down there called Gary Kennedy at East Fremantle Lacrosse Club, and he played in the under-19s Australian team, and they're quite a successful lacrosse family, and he was basically my coach from that point on, and he was able to assist with where you place your hands on the stick, how wide your feet are, the positioning goals. So I was really well looked after in that sense. And he was the under-19s coach as well in 2002, I think it was, for the Australian team. And he went over to the States and met up with a couple of people that he knew there, and was able to collect a ton of CDs and of games, I guess, because we didn't have access to any games, any college games or international games. So he would always pass me those, and I would be able to watch the goalies on those and try and mimic different styles and see what worked for me.
Yeah, that's very similar to my story of, like, because I'm 42, right? So like when I was around 2003 or 2002, when I was like in college, we'd get the VHS tapes of like Tillman Johnson and like that around that era, and just watch the crap out of those games, right?
Yeah, my one was, I think we first had the VHS. Now I'm showing my age too. We had the VHS of the 2002 NCAA final, and I think Jay Pfeiffer for Syracuse and Trevor Tierney were in goals. So I was able to watch those two on repeat and just try and, because they're both very different goalies, so it was nice to sort of pick and choose bits and pieces. And then what you said, Tillman Johnson, he's one of the favorites.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about the scene in the lacrosse scene in Australia, because obviously, the sport is growing internationally, but it's still very much, US, Canada,
Yeah.
focused. But every once in a while I do these lacrosse goalie summits and I say, hey, who's with me? Put it in the chat where you're coming in from. And every once in a while nowadays, like, boom, pops up Australia, but it's just kind of cool to see. But anyway, talk to me about, the lacrosse scene in your country there.
Yeah, so maybe I can just say that because it's club based, it's all done out of school hours. So you would go to school throughout the day and then you'd come home, change your gear, get your bag, and then head down to lacrosse training.
Yeah.
And so for the juniors, that would probably start around 4:30 or 5 o'clock, somewhere around there. And then you'd be picked up and taken home. And then the seniors would then start training at around 6:30 and then go to about 8:30 at night. And that's Tuesday, Thursdays, roughly Tuesday, Thursdays in the winter, and then games on Saturday. So it's all very club based and family orientated. So, you've got families who've played lacrosse, and have their kids playing lacrosse, and then they sort of stay within the clubs. And so juniors would start on Saturdays at early morning and then all the way lead up to seniors at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about before. It's like no university athletics over there, right? All club based, but it's great. Yeah, I mean, if you can build up that club. And now, Australia has been in the World Championships, right? I mean, you've got these guys with the experience like yourself now coming back. And I imagine that, you're sharing that knowledge of the sport with the youth, right?
Yeah, that's right. There's plenty of guys who've now gone and played international and who are back coaching at club level. And at our club, East Fremantle, we've got like a cabinet case with everyone's jerseys up there or famous photos and that sort of thing. So as soon as you walk into the club, you can basically see the history of our players at the world stage or college level. And I'm probably, I guess, one of the most famous ones is Jeff Kennedy. Jeff Kennedy and Peter Can, they were both all world players back in their day. And you see them down the club every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. So you can always have a chat to them about it. And they would tell you how good they were as well.
As any good lacrosse player would. If I was that good, I would certainly tell you about that. Now, is it an actual club, like a facility? Because when I'm thinking like club lacrosse, I'm just thinking like a group of kids that plays, right? Not like an actual.
No, we've got a really beautiful facility that's just been done up over the last couple of years, but it's on Preston Point Road, right next to the Swan River, which connects to Perth City. So it's this high rise sort of looking out over the city, which is really beautiful. And it's got, a bar, a canteen, change rooms, all the bells and whistles. So away teams come in, you have your own change room, and we can hold events there, fundraisers, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you see as sort of the impediment to like lacrosse taking the next leap in Australia? Is it the price of the gear? Is it the lack? Is it coaching? What do you see as like the impediment?
Yeah, it's the competition with other sports. So in lacrosse, it's a winter sport because it's too hot in the summer to wear all the gear and you'd be sweating. So it's competing with AFL football. It's competing with soccer, rugby, those sort of sports. So we've been able to establish a bigger program in high schools and primary schools now. So that we can put the game in front of students more, so they learn it as physical education, phys ed, and then hopefully they'll say, I want to play that sport, and they'll come down to East Freo.
Yeah.
So that would be the main obstacle. I know that money is usually another factor, but it's literally competing with the biggest sports in Australia.
Yeah. Well, I'm down here in Argentina, and it's all soccer, right? It's all football down here.
Yeah.
So I know what you mean about competing. But
that's right. So
go ahead.
Oh yeah, so it's just hoping to capture those players, whether they've dropped off or whether they, like myself, who I was okay at footy and I was okay at cricket, but lacrosse sort of caught on really quickly, and then all of a sudden, you're feeling really needed within the team, and it's a really great environment. And then there's these little stepping stones to playing regional for your state, or then for your state, and then for Australia, and it's within grasp if you can sort of up your skills pretty quickly. Whereas with footy and soccer, it's a massive program, and the chances of playing for Australia are very, very slim.
Yeah. What is it about the sport for you that captured your attention so much, or if you had to give a little pitch to
Yeah.
The folks looking to switch over to lacrosse, what would it be?
Yeah, with definitely the pace of the game. I didn't like obviously in footy the ball's always moving, but you're at one end of the field and probably might not see the ball for a little bit. Same with cricket. Obviously, cricket's the slower pace like baseball, but the pace of the game, the physicality, for me the challenge of stopping a shot that was pretty exciting for me.
Yeah.
Um, and then throughout my time, I've been able to sample obviously playing on the field and that, and yeah, it's a pretty unique game, but it definitely caught me straight away. And yeah, I think it's got wouldn't say a bad rap, but a misunderstood rap in Australia. Whereas now that we've got it in high schools and primary schools in front of kids' faces, then they're able to sample it pretty quickly, and it's not the version where there's no pads and that they try to put pads on them, or they try to put helmets at least and show them the faster version of the game.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean it
So that
got a
would be
bad? What do you mean it got a bad rap?
not so much a bad rap. Like people just, if you said lacrosse, they might not know what it is straight away.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Whereas in the States or Canada or even anywhere else, they'd be like, oh yeah, I get that one. I
Right.
used to say it was the sport from American Pie. That's that's the way I would try and explain it, because everyone's seen American Pie.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That was kind of everyone's first taste, or who hasn't played the sport, their first taste of seeing lacrosse, right? American Pie. I love it. Well, cool. Um, what
That's pretty much it.
yeah, right. And then, talking about your lacrosse goalie game, I mean, what were some of the key moments in your career where you really just drastically improve your game?
Uh, oh, it's tricky to nail it down, but I feel like there was a point where I was playing for state teams, and it was sort of like I think I was more of just a reactionary goalie, a bit all over the place, not a huge form. But when I was able to travel to the States and play high school over there, um, I was able to sort of have more access to coaching, have more access to game tape, and the level of lacrosse went up. So then
Yeah.
hopefully my game sort of rose with that. So yeah, I'd probably say that was the biggest moment, playing for Trinity Pauling High School in upstate New York.
That's awesome. How did you make that happen?
I just sent emails everywhere. I just thought my one of the coaches in WA, his name's Travis Roost. He played at Nazareth College, and he
Yeah.
sort of identified me as someone that might be able to go over and play. And he was he first initially thought, oh, maybe could go to Gilman, because he had some contacts there, and then we were just talking. He said probably best to look at the prep schools and that sort of area, because you might be able to get financial aid and that. So I emailed a bunch of schools in the New England League, and Trinity Pauling was the one to get me over there, really.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of international kids that, maybe have a dream of playing
Mm,
playing in college in the US. And so they want my
yeah,
opinion on how to do it. And I'm kind of like, oh man, I've talked with a lot of folks about it.
yeah,
But certainly like putting together your game film and then what you did, you gotta sort of, it's like a job, right? Like you got a
yeah.
job interview, right?
Basically, yeah,
Yeah. And so it sounds like
yeah,
that's how you made it happen.
yeah. Basically, the same thing. Put game tape together, email coaches, and then I remember chatting with Coach Joe Tweed over the phone, trying to figure it out. And yeah, we made it work, and yeah, it was one of the best decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I mean, I feel like, if you have a passion for the game, like going over and playing against this higher level of competition and kind of
Yeah,
seeing, what lacrosse is all about, especially in the Northeast, right? Like that's like, the hardcore core of the lacrosse
yeah,
scene. And I
yeah. I think
imagine
that's
that
what we were
just
always taught.
ignited you, right?
That's what we were always taught as Australians, is that if you want to play, you should go to the States. And so
Yeah.
there's always past players who have either played at college, so we were able to hear those stories of how much fun they had over in the States and how the lacrosse was great. And so yeah, that just lit a fire in me that I wanted to go do it, and was lucky enough to do year 11 and 12 over there, or
Nice. Nice.
junior and senior.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Um,
awesome. And what did you learn? Or was it just, playing with that level of competition naturally upped your game? Or were there like other specific things that were real big takeaways for you?
I think it was probably playing with that competition that upped my game, but also having the players around me because at at club level, the skill level sort of varies. So you might have someone who's very, very good, and then you've got to sort of teach and guide others in a team whose skill levels aren't as good.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas over there, it was like, well, everyone's sort of at this level, and then there's a couple of other stars. So
Right.
having some wiser heads on defense as well was always a good calming effect on me, and there was a lot of guys there who were good like that. And I remember my first time getting there, I was the Australian at the school, so it was very, I was a novelty, I guess. And
Yeah.
they were all pretty keen on having a shoot at me. So we went up to the tennis courts, and I remember having a semicircle of guys. There must have been about 20 guys ready to shoot on me. And I remember even the coaches were having a shoot on me as well. It was funny.
That's good. We're all gonna rip one on the Aussie, huh?
Yeah,
Welcome to the US.
welcome him over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Awesome. Um, is there anything like really different that you'd say like you did as like before getting to the US in terms of your goalie play? Like, oh, I always did this, and then I got here and they were like, why are you doing that? Or was it pretty much, the technique and the stance and the arc play was pretty much, what you saw in the US, just kind of a different level.
Yeah, it was. I was probably a really active goalie when I was
Okay.
younger because I really enjoyed running out of the goals with the ball. Trying to go down and score because I thought that was just part of the game as well. Why wouldn't I be allowed to go do that?
Yeah, right.
But I would always find myself in trouble, and the coaches were like, you're the one who's got to be back here to save the goals. We can't have you mucking around up there.
Yeah.
So that was probably a part of my game that I had to sort of calm down and relax. But watching goalies like Trevor Tierney and that, he obviously had that super wide stance and the hands out. So I was able to try that. And then Jay Pfeiffer's one where he's a bit more relaxed and feet closer together. And then see Matt Russell play and Tillman Johnson play. And I would just kind of pick and choose bits and pieces of their game and try it. And I reckon to this day, I still do that a little bit. Whereas if, say, the game's not going the way I want it to, or I might try something different or change it up a bit. Or if I've let in 4 or 5 goals in a row or something, hopefully not, then I'd try and get a ground ball or try and make a hit on goal line extended or something like that to add something else to the game.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's a couple things you said there that I really love. That I'm such a huge advocate of picking and choosing and trying different things. With the goalie position, I watch a lot of goalies now, and I've been watching. I sponsored the Syracuse goalie Will Mark, and
Yep.
he's doing something right now that I haven't really seen, but I love, and it's kind of hard to describe. I'm gonna put out a video of it pretty soon, but it's kind of like
Yeah. No, I've seen him play.
Yeah, because he's super tall. He's like 6'4", like 6'3",
Yeah.
right? And if you've got that kind of length, like when he does an off stick high save, like he almost covers the lower part with his knee, right? So like in case he kind of like reads it wrong, right? Where like he'll make a save, and it kind of reminds me of like soccer goalies when they come out and they just try to like get,
Make space.
Yeah, make space, right? And just kind of get as big as possible because it's like I got my hands up here high to make the save. But if the shot happens to be low, my knee's going to be there and make the save. So I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, to the point of I love just watching goalies picking out just little tiny things and implementing it in my game as well.
Yeah. And Dylan Ward was obviously, he's been the talk, and having played now against him in 2018 at the Worlds, he's just a massive dude. And when he comes out and covers the crease, it's like, well, where am I supposed to shoot? Because there's 6'4" of him and there's track pants and there's a lot of space. So, trying to implement parts of that into the game where you try and step out and break down an angle, that's kind of been helpful. But yeah, I think I've always found it really hard to bed down my technique. It's sort of fluid a little bit.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. And then the other thing you mentioned there was, if you're not making saves on a particular day, like you can still, like you said, win a ground ball, you could still chase a shot out or in a possession. There's still a lot of things that you can do to sort of get yourself back in the game mentally, right? And then hopefully next quarter, next half, the saves start to come. So love it. I'd love to talk about the World Games you mentioned there. Talk to me about that whole process. I mean, first kind of, what's it like to try out for the team, and what were kind of your your feelings when they said, all right, you're our guy, you're our goalie.
Oh, for the Australian team, it's been a pretty long journey because I tried out way back in 2010 for that side. I
Oh,
was
wow.
20 odd at the time, and I was lucky enough to be selected as an alternate for that one. So obviously it was heartbreaking not making the side, but um, I didn't get to travel with that side. But it was still nice to be selected as an alternate. And then in 2014, and maybe a year before that, I had torn my ACL,
Hmm.
so I wasn't able to try out for that side. And we we had a Western Australian legend in Warren Brown make his fourth Australian side, playing at the age of 42,
Oh,
and he was the
wow.
captain of that side. That was the Denver one, so he obviously did well there. And then for 2018, I was 31 by the time I played for Australia then, so it's a long time and it's a lot of time dedicated to trying to play for Australia and play for your club and play for your state. So it
Right.
was a massive relief to make the side. And I remember the phone call from the coach, Glenn Meredith. So, and my West Australian coach, Glenn Morley, as well, was super stoked for me. So, yeah, it was unreal playing for Australia. And to
Yeah.
now do it again, and this time in San Diego, hopefully it'll be a pretty unreal experience.
Yeah, well, like I said on Instagram, I'll see you there. I got a bunch of friends in San Diego, and obviously
Yeah,
I'm from California, so I'm going to go back and
yeah.
try and meet as many goalies and see as much lacrosse as I can. So I can't wait.
Yeah, I think the spectacle will be much different from Israel. I think obviously it was sort of a last minute change, but
Right.
to play in the states amongst the fans of the game would be pretty unreal.
Yeah. How is it, when in 2018 when you're with the best in the world? I mean, if
Mm,
you hang out with the best in the world at anything, right? At chess,
yeah,
at checkers, it's
yeah,
got to be like a certain vibe that I imagine is pretty cool. So talk to me about that.
yeah. I would say playing against the bigger nations in the Haudenosaunee, the Canadians, and the US,
Yeah.
it's a shock. It's a shock to the system to be able to play against that level. And I
Yeah.
think there's that couple of percent in you, which is you're a fan. So we've been obviously watching games of pro over there, and that's so you see them standing next to you in the attack line, and I'm in the goals. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, right.
But
It's Tom Schreiber,
uh,
right? Like it's crazy.
yeah. So you sort of have to push that to the side really quickly, and then just react. For my case, it was basically just react, and this is going to sound a bit weird, I guess, but I really had nothing to lose at that point because they're the pros. I'm the amateur from Australia who does this, for
Right.
fun.
Right.
So at that point, you can sort of let the stress go and you can just sort of enjoy playing. Because obviously we want to beat the US and Canada and Haudenosaunee and England and all of that, but the chances of beating those top three, is a bit slim. So we obviously try our hardest um, and that, but yeah, it's an unreal experience to face that sort of competitor.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's sometimes in sports why you see a lot of upsets because the team that is the underdog, they're just going out there and playing so
Yeah,
relaxed because like you said, right? Because
yeah.
no one thinks they're going to win. So there's
No,
no
well,
pressure on them.
yeah, we do hope to win, obviously, and
Sure.
we do think we
Sure.
can put up a fight, and but
Right.
on the other end, we need a few other factors to go our way as well. Whether they feel like there's no pressure or there's a lot of pressure on for them to win, or they've had a really tough tournament. And I think it's been well known that we're probably the fittest team at the Worlds. The boys work really hard on fitness and health and that. So we've got 7 days with 7 games. So I don't think the pros would be used to that sort of a conditioning. So
It's true.
that's usually our sticking point.
Yeah.
And hopefully we get better throughout the week as well. I think that's been shown.
Yeah. 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 And do you have the opportunity then to meet the other goalies and like talk shop with them? Like was there some takeaways that you got with them, or is like are most teams kind of like doing their own thing?
Yeah. We sort of found that the US and the Canadians were sort of doing their own thing, which is fine. They don't
Yeah.
have to stick around and sign autographs and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But the Haudenosaunee team was great. There's a player on that team, Taylor Smoke, who is a defenseman for them, and he played at East Frio back in 2000 I don't know, 8 or something like that. And he sort of traveled from college straight to Australia to, have a summer off and see the sights around Australia and also play some lacrosse, which was really cool. So I knew him from there. So then after the game, we were able to chat a little bit, take some photos together, and I was able to talk to Warren Hill a little bit after the
Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
which was pretty cool. We were just talking about what we were going to eat after the game, and he was off to have an ice cream, and so yeah, it was really cool to chat to those guys.
Yeah, I had Warren on the podcast. He's a pretty low key guy, huh?
Yeah,
But he's
very
awesome.
funny, very
Yeah,
funny, low key guy. Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah.
we didn't get to socialize a hell of a lot, which we would have liked.
Right. All right. Well, hopefully I can socialize when I get there. Who is this guy running a podcast? Trying to talk to all of us when we're playing.
No, we love
We'll
it.
see.
We love
We'll
it. I
see.
mean, the boys had a lot of fun on the All Star Lax All Stars show they had running there. They always had a after
Oh,
game
okay.
show, which was pretty
Yeah.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Cool. Ryan, what does your training regimen look like right now? What are you doing to prepare for those games next summer?
Uh, Lifting 3 times a week at the moment.
Yep.
Just trying to strengthen my legs up a little bit. Obviously, I've had a history of ACL tears, so
Yeah.
to be able to make sure that I feel comfortable and safe and confident with those is the main part. We train for Australia once a week at the moment, and club-based programs are just starting up. So pre-season's usually down at the beach with some beach running and a bit of beach lax down there, and then
Yeah.
club training will start twice a week. So that'll be Tuesday, Thursdays, and then Australian training will sort of be in between. We have a camp coming up in March in Melbourne for the Australian team. So that'll be the first time we've all gotten together as players that have been selected. So previously it's been sort of a group of 50 people or so, 60 before that in the tryout process. But yeah, this will be the first time we're coming together as a team.
Love it. And is it pretty easy to get from Perth to like the other side? Because it's a big country, right? Like, I mean, how do you
Yeah.
go? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a 4-hour plane ride to
All
Melbourne,
right.
so it's
That's doable.
not too bad at all. And
Yeah.
most of us are pretty excited to go do it anyway. So
Of course.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, good luck. I'd love to talk about the ACL injury if we could.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of goalies and athletes for that matter go through that. And, hearing some of the lessons and just, some of the stories I think really help. So talk to me about how that happened and kind of how you recovered, if you could.
Yeah, so it was sort of an innocuous play. I was sort of facing towards X on the pipe, and then there was a quick pass up top. So I sort of cut across, and then it was a quick shot. So I had to sort of throw my right leg out to try and get across to the other side of the goal. And I just sort of, I guess it landed in an awkward position and felt it slide out from underneath. And
Yeah.
that sucked. That was my first major injury. And that was sort of around the 2012 time when I was really hoping to try and make that Australian side.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty upset about it all. And then the rehab's obviously really long and arduous, and we're obviously at university or have part-time jobs. So rehab sort of, we're not at Division 1 lacrosse or D2, D3 lacrosse there to play. It's sort of a side gig almost
Sure.
where we're working and studying. So the rehab part of it was long, and I took my time with it for this one. But in 2020, I retore my ACL, so not that long ago.
Yeah.
It was sort of hanging on by a couple of years prior to that. In 2016, I'd done a partial tear. So I think I'm not sure whether the way I played has a factor in it with the way I was sort of agile in that. But I'd had that partial tear leading into the World Games, and I had the knee brace on. And I remember playing the US and standing at the other end of the field and seeing Jack Kelly go down with it. And it sucks seeing goalies go through that, or any player go through that. But I reached out to him on Instagram just to say, I'm sorry to see that happen. But he's able to come back, which is really cool. It was one of the really nice journeys to see him back playing for the Redwoods.
Amazing story, right? For you, was there, like, when you went back out there, was there like a little voice in your head that was like, oh, I hope I don't do this again? Like, did that kind of impact your play, or were you able to silence that?
No, it's definitely impacted my play. I wear the knee
Mm,
brace all the time now,
yeah.
just because I've had a couple of instances. So I wear the knee brace all the time. I don't run out like a goose anymore,
Yeah.
trying to do a lot of ground balls or trying to hit too many people.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's because I'm 36 now, and I shouldn't be running around doing that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, a young kid like sophomore in high school, so that's grade 10, right? He emailed me the other day and he said
Hmm.
he tore his ACL again. And he did I don't he says I don't know if I'm going to be able to play next season because I don't want to have to go through it a third time.
Mm.
Essentially what should I do? Right. And it's tough for
Yeah,
me because I've never gone through like a major injury like that. So it's so easy to sit on like the sidelines and be like, dude, play again, go through it
yeah,
again. But I don't know what he's going on up here. What would you say to
yeah.
that young kid?
Um, the first thing I would say is you've only got playing years for so many years, and then all of a sudden you don't get to play lacrosse anymore, or you don't have the same opportunities to play. So I would always say fight to play the game, and go to as much rehab and strength and conditioning and weightlifting as possible. See the right people to get your knee feeling as confident as possible, and then just baby steps, whether it's not running out anymore or
Right.
changing maybe the style of your play and seeing if that's helped with confidence. Um, but yeah, I would say definitely fight to play the game because once it's gone out of your life or once you're not able to play anymore, because I hear all the guys at the club at East Frio talk about how they wish they could still play because we have juniors all the way up till seniors, and then there's guys who can play Division 2 and Division 3 in club, which is the 40-year-olds and then the 50-year-olds, and so we see them play and we get to sit on the sidelines and they're having the best time. So the
Yeah.
longer you can play, the better. And I wouldn't say give it away. I would say keep fighting for it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And he's a sophomore in high school, so like even he could play his entire college career, assuming he goes to
Yeah,
college. And there's different
yeah,
levels of college, right? So it's maybe
that's right.
with all those injuries, you end up not making the
Yeah,
top level, but you make the
yeah,
club level of college lacrosse. And guess what?
yeah.
That's where I played, and I had an amazing experience. So
Exactly. You
keep going.
should. You're playing for the love of the game, hopefully.
Totally. Love it. Well, very cool. So, and then do you have like, are you taking shots right now or how's that work?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been sort of non-stop for the last little
Right.
campaign leading up to this selection for the Australian team. So we had a camp. Gosh, it must have been early January,
Okay.
and that was the final selection. So previous to that, we've been having lead-up camps. So yeah, it's been non-stop for the last little period to try and make this Australian team. So at the moment in Western Australia, we have 8 guys, I think, selected. So it's a small group of guys that we can train with.
Yeah.
But then we do a lot of shooting in that, so I get a lot of work in that. And then we have our club scene. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit difficult. We can't always just fly and catch up together. We have to pay our own way almost for Australia. So
Right.
it's not like we have a ton of support in terms of that. We do a lot of fundraising, but to make our way to San Diego, it's going to be a larger expense. But we all do it because we love it, and we try and fundraise, and we do our best to gain some sponsorships and bits and pieces. So
Cool. Well, if I can help you anyway, by spreading the word on a fundraiser, definitely reach out.
yeah, that'd be good. Thank you.
Yeah. So you got the 8 guys. Did the 8 guys just line up in a semicircle and rip on the
Yeah,
Aussie goalie? Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. No, we do a
Yeah.
lot of shooting drills because the guys, traditionally, games against the USA and Canada, we haven't scored a bunch of goals. Last Worlds, I think we scored maybe one against the US the first game, maybe a couple more with Canada. So shooting is a major priority for Australian attackers and midfielders, and even long poles. We need to squeeze a goal out from anywhere.
For
Um,
sure. Yeah.
so yeah, lot of emphasis on shooting, which is good for me because I end up seeing, same with Sean Aaron, the other Australian goalie, we end up seeing a bunch of shots at the Worlds, and they're not always from outside. They're usually one-on-ones or within a few meters or feet.
Yeah. I was going to ask you who the other goalie is on that team on your team is Sean Aaron.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Cool.
He originally was from the States, but came out to Australia for a bit of fun, and to play some lacrosse. This must have been 2015, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
and obviously with his background in Division Two, and I think he was, I might get myself in trouble. He might have been an All-American for Division Two, but he'd played on a few pro rosters for MLL and been sort of the third goalie and trying to break into teams. So he came out and he was obviously one of the best goalies straight away, and he enjoyed playing state tournaments for Victoria. And then the opportunity to play for Australia arose after a certain amount of time for being in Australia.
Got it.
And I think we can have one or two non-passport holders, I think it is. But you have to play within Australia for a certain amount of time, obviously give back to the Australian lacrosse community. And he's certainly done his time doing that. And we became quite good friends. And yeah, he's a brilliant goalie and a very good one at the world stage, and played a huge game for us against England in the second half. And then he played the whole game against Israel, and that was one of the bigger games that we needed to win over there as well.
Nice. Cool. Well, I'll reach out to him as well. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, are you allowed to have like players whose parents are Australian, but like they don't live there? That works, right?
Yep. So as long as you've got a passport, I'm pretty sure it works that way.
I gotcha.
So there's a few players that have made our roster for this World Cup who, while they don't live in Australia, they have parents who are Australian. So I think that's the way to be able to qualify as well.
All right. So I've got a U.S. passport and I've got a Canadian passport. So watch out.
There you go. Try for the Canadian team.
Watch out, Dylan Ward. Coming after you. I love it. What about the mental side, Ryan? You mentioned, maybe if you're not having a good game, you might try and win a ground ball or make another play. But what are there other like exercises or specific thoughts that you have that really help you mentally?
I think I used to rely a lot on my coaches because I think I was a pretty, like I said before, I was a pretty active goalie, and I might get a bit riled up after a save and throw a rushed outlet or something silly like that. That's probably what I was known for a lot when I was growing up, and then early days as a 20-year-old or whatever. And so just having coaches and defensemen there to be able to say, take your time, use your 4 seconds in the crease, and then walk back to X, those few steps to go through, those have been really helpful for me. And then I think the other part of it is like a life balance. So if other parts of your life are going really well, then you're not all eggs in one basket for lacrosse almost. Whereas you can sort of relax a little bit on the field and just enjoy the game. And for me, it was making sure that my family was good, my job was good, all the other parts of outside of lacrosse are good, and then you can just relax and enjoy the game and not stress out about it so much.
Right.
That was probably for me the biggest part of it. So I'm not sure how that translates to kids and that, but I always used to say if as long as your studies are going good, as long as your homework's going good, then just come to lacrosse for fun and the rest will click.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that lesson. It reminds me of this article that this goalie sent me. Like he had like a near death experience, like a car accident, real bad car accident, and him and his family survived. He was a kid, right? So him and his family survived, right? All good. But that experience like really changed his lacrosse career because like now all of a sudden, like he's got this gratitude for the sport. And it's like, man, I almost died, right? Like that's some real stuff. This anxiety, the stress that I have on the field, that's nothing, right? I can deal with that. I'm going to come out here and have fun. And it's just it's that mental switch of gratitude. That's kind of what you're hitting on, I think.
Yeah, I think for me at the Worlds, playing against those bigger teams, it was the journey for Australian players to make an Australian side is really hard and costs a lot of money, and there's a lot of relief. There's a lot of relief once you finally make the side. So a lot of the hard work's been done, and then all of a sudden you're at the Worlds and you're expected to play against these teams, and you just want to be able to let it all go and enjoy, because that week, the week is going to fly by, and then all of a sudden it's another 4 years. So I try and remind myself to enjoy all the moments, try and enjoy all the downtime, all the little trainings leading up to it, because once they're gone, they're sort of gone. So I'm not sure if that helps at all.
Well, it's a good lesson, right? It's a real good lesson. It's like, and it's also cherish it while you got it. Cause I would give I would give quite a bit to go back and play a couple more games at the collegiate level. I mean,
Yeah,
they're that amazing, or
yeah,
have that experience. So,
yeah,
um, cool. Yeah, and that helps mentally. I mean, it helps. Like you don't think it does as you're a youth. You're like, well, how's that really going to help me? But trust me, like the mental
yeah.
game is so crucial.
Yeah, well, they talk about that a lot for cricket as well, and batting long periods in cricket. And so, you've for goalies, you've got this sort of 12 or 13 or 14 moments, depending on the type of game, where you either touch the ball or you've got it in your stick passing. The rest is just hanging out, talking to your defense, having chats. So if you can make a lot of those moments light and fun, then
Yeah.
zero in for that moment where the shooter's winding up or you've got to really focus and then sort of drop down again.
Love it. Love it. Cool, Ryan. Is there one game that stands out in your career as like, wow, that was the one for me. That's the best I've ever played. If I was gonna do a save edit, Ryan Sparks save edit, what any games come to mind?
Um, there's a few games at East Fremantle that I would say are up there in terms of how I played and how many goals I let in. But the one that I'm the one that I'm probably most proud of is the one against the US in the semi final. It didn't start very well. I had Michael Earhart rip a shot on me. It was the very first goal of the game. He basically, there was a sort of a broken play out of the face off, and Earhart just dropped back a little bit and he caught it and stung it top corner here. And I think there's this great camera angle of me where I'm sort of not, I wouldn't say I'm slow to react, but it was bloody fast, and I was just and had no chance of getting it. But I was able to make about five or six saves in the first quarter. Um, there was a there was a good one right at the end where I was sort of able to do the splits and go down and get one. I think it was Ned Crotty maybe. Um, but yeah, that game against the US, to be able to play at that level and play against those guys and know that I could make those saves
Yeah.
and try and get myself. We always hope to get 50% or more, right, in save percentage.
Right.
Um, and for us goalies, the way we talk about it in Australia is it's going to be bloody hard to get that against those top nations. But I was just shy of 50% against them.
Nice.
So yeah, I think that was probably my greatest memory of playing against them and playing pretty well.
There we go. I'll check that game out. I love it.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of highlights in there that aren't good for me though. So just pick and choose what you
Skip over
grab
those
from
ones.
me.
Skip over those
Yeah,
ones, right? That's why
yeah.
it's an
But
edit.
no, yeah. Thank you. Save edit, please.
Save edit. Yeah, there you go.
No, I saw the save edits for our 19s goalies, which was really cool. So a lot of
Oh
those
yeah.
guys, we yeah, I've spoken to Jay Bidwell Barton, who was the under 19s goalie for Australia, and he's a good bloke, and he's an alternate for this senior men's side, and he'll be a very good Australian senior goalie when the next one comes around, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But we love the save edits.
oh, thank you. Thank you. Me too. Evan on my team does them these days, but I watch them like a
Yeah,
fan now. But yeah,
yeah,
that's cool.
same,
I
same.
remember watching the those that under 21 was under 21
Yeah, sorry, I said under
championships.
19s, but the COVID delayed it for forever, so under 21s.
There you go. Yeah. And it was yeah, it's just tons of fun watching those kids play. And yeah, I know Jay had some great games.
Yeah, yeah, he's going to be a good goalie.
All right. Ryan, you feel like we hit on anything? You got some other stories I should have asked you about, or does that feel pretty good?
No, it feels good to me.
All right.
I just wanted to say thank you to you for what you do for goalies, and I know that you've obviously got a large reach in the US and that, but internationally, I'm sure that there's a reach in definitely in Australia amongst the goalie community. We all check out your site and make sure we're keeping up to tabs with everyone.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, this is my passion, and just the fact that I get to do it as a full-time job is just unbelievable to me. So I'm forever
Yeah.
grateful, and all the folks listening, thank you so much. Ryan, if you had to leave the youth goalies out there with a final piece of advice, what would that be?
Um, I know we've spoken about the mental game and all that already, but I would say get a stick that you're really happy with. I
Mm,
think there was a moment for me. I remember always struggling with goalie sticks in Australia, whereas the people who could string sticks wasn't there a lot, and I was sort of having to learn on the fly and do it myself. And I remember always struggling trying to pass long balls. The ball would get stuck in the net, and it would just never feel right. And
mm,
until East Coast ECD came out with that hero mesh, the
Yeah.
semi-soft one. I feel like, and Mr. Wonderful, the way he strings sticks, I think you've had a chat with him before.
Yeah.
Being able to string a stick that I really love and feel really safe and I know I can hit outlets with, that's just completely changed my game, I guess, and made that part of it so confident. So it'd be for goalies, go find someone who can string you the best stick, or go get someone and pay for it to be done, so that you feel 100% confident and happy, and you're confident you can hit all the passes, because that's such a massive part of the game, is hitting passes. So
Yeah. Great point. It's something we didn't even hit on is, I remember playing, I still have it back here somewhere. I think it's directly behind me. I have this old STX Eclipse and it's strung up with like this
yeah,
horrible pocket. And
yeah,
I played with that thing, right?
yeah,
Like competitively. And then like
yeah,
I got like a stick strung up by Mr. Wonderful with this new mesh, the new heads. And it's like right out of the gate, the thing just throws dimes, right? And not only
yeah,
that, it's like it just absorbs the ball. It's just like a rebound
yeah,
eater, right? And it's just they're
yeah,
amazing. So yeah, that's a great point that you brought up there.
yeah. I think for a lot of junior goalies in Australia, they get handed this goalie stick, which has been in the shed for 20 years and is like a
Yeah,
tennis racket. And then they
exactly.
wonder why the game's so hard, because you're either stopping the ball, but you're not catching it. Catching it's the most fun part. If you can stop a shot and catch it, and then you can be confident with the outlet straight away, that to me
Yeah,
is the most fun part of the game.
yeah.
Whereas if you're just getting hit with it and you're trying to catch it, but it's rebounding out 50 meters,
All right.
then that's not much fun at all. So if you can get good sticks, that's what I now try to string all the sticks for upcoming goalies in WA and whatnot, just because I want them to feel good and that they've got a good stick.
I love that. Are you a good stick stringer?
I know one way to string sticks, and I'm very confident with it, with the STX Eclipse too, and the
Yeah.
ECD Hero semi soft, and I say, if you want it, my stick, I will string you a version of mine, and you can have it. And so I usually do that for all the junior goalies coming up.
I love it. You're like that old artist that's got one song, right? And just like I'm playing that, but you nail it every time.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um,
I don't try to do the Nemesis or anything else. It's just the Eclipse at the moment.
okay. I am not a good stick stringer, but the other day I'm like, all right, that's it. Like I gotta like learn how. And so
Yeah,
I did. I strung up my first stick end to end, the impact, the ECD impact,
yeah,
with their new mesh, the impact semi hard. But it was great. Like
mm,
it came out like I gave myself a C. So it's not great, but like it's usable, and it was just great to understand the experience. And even like
mm,
I filmed it. I filmed a tutorial like explaining how I'm doing it. So like
yeah,
when you do that, like you have to then understand it at this whole new level
mm,
to explain what
yeah,
you're doing. So it was very good for me.
yeah. Now you can reach out to all your connections to try and help you learn a little bit more, I guess.
Exactly, exactly. I did. I took a picture of it. I sent it to Mr.
Yeah.
Wonderful, and I'm like, this thing has
Notes.
way too much whip. Yeah, give me some notes. And he's like, all right, loosen it here, like do this, do that. And
Mm.
I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah,
So
no, I've definitely followed his page and seen a few of the sticks there. So
he's awesome. Yeah, he's awesome. Well, cool, Ryan. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a blast chatting goalie with you. I'll see you this summer. And if people want to
yeah.
learn a little bit more about you, should I send them to the Instagram?
Oh, for me personally,
Yep.
yeah, I guess so. I don't post a hell of a lot on Instagram, but I'll try to leading up to the Worlds. And then one of the main things, maybe if I can get out, is that if you ever want to play lacrosse in Australia, always try and reach out to Lacrosse Australia, or I'll even push my own club, East Fremantle Lacrosse Club, because we've had a good history of having players come out after college if they want to have a holiday and have a tour
Yeah.
around Australia and then play some lacrosse. We definitely try and host one or two players a year. Um, we just had Tucker Wade come out. I think he's Ryan Wade's son. He played at Subiaco Lacrosse Club just before he was about to go to Princeton. So,
Cool.
um, and then we're speaking to a couple of D1 players at the moment, hoping that they'll come out and play for us down at East Frio. So it's a great holiday spot. We've had a good track record of keeping imports where they love it too much and they stay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm off to a wedding, one of my mates' weddings in May, and then one in December from two players from Dominican University who've now been out here 7 and 8 years after they've travelled and played. So hopefully we've got a good track record of showing people a good time.
Well, very cool. Me and my wife are always talking about taking a holiday or a vacation, as we say in the US, to Australia. So if I do, I'll have to hit you up. We'll put on some goalie clinics.
Yep. Definitely hit up Perth, Western Australia.
There you go. Ryan, thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Take care.